everyone. Today we are with Kevin Lear, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, he's the owner of magical-india.net, motorbiketv.tv, and the owner of the YouTube channel Magical Adventure of Kevin Lear. He has 4,000 subscribers, and some of his videos reach 170,000 views, which is pretty amazing. So let's start with who is Kevin Lear? What do you do for a living?
Until most recently, I'm ex-army, came out of the army and fell into the world of tourism. In tourism, producing maps and guidebooks and magazines, and then the world of video all of a sudden came into my sight. And so we started producing videos before anybody had really heard of YouTube. And in fact, we embedded them into the websites. I remember putting a little note underneath. You might have to go and make a cup of tea before the video will start playing. Maybe wasn't even heard of. And then
so we're talking about what, 20 years ago, something like that. 1980.
Wow,
I was just 3 years old by then.
We won't go and tell you how old I'm going to be in 3 weeks' time. And then formed a company, Tourism TV, and we started selling to tourism businesses, marketing video all around the country.
Okay.
Back down to motorbikes, had a flash in the pan of, motorbike TV. Bought the very first camera off eBay, cost me £75. It was a Drift HD 170. No stabilization or anything like that. Strapped it on my helmet, shoved a mic in it, and off I went. Said to people, would you like to advertise in my film? Oh, wow, yeah. And it sort of grew from there. And so for quite a number of years, I was producing touring films with a motorbike.
All right.
Write books. The website came online, Motorbike TV. YouTube, I also used Vimeo, and then gathered to get sponsors, advertisers, doing really well. And then the world exploded.
Yeah, we all know that, unfortunately.
And so the sponsors disappeared, the advertisers, they locked the cases and went, we've got to survive.
Yeah, of course.
So I then went into, currently at the moment, I'm working in static caravan parks, selling static caravans to people who wish to use them to come for the weekend break.
Oh, sounds interesting.
To get into the motorbike world, hence upcoming India again.
Yeah, exactly. So you traveled a lot. Okay. So just one step back. You started this website, you started these videos.
Yeah.
You've been doing a lot of touring, a lot of reviews I saw, and not just bikes, but also gadgets, accessories, cameras, anything that could be useful on a trip, basically, right?
Absolutely.
And then you traveled a lot, and you became fond of India. You've been to India how many times, you said?
Been 3 times.
3 times in India,
Yes.
and you really fell in love with it, and you're about to go on another trip. So what impressed you? What did struck you there?
Well, I was approached by a company called MotorZeal. It's no longer in existence, but it was a company called MotorZeal, run by a guy called Bishop Banerjee, and they contacted me out of the blue, and I'd had a number of opportunities to go on tours to film them and review them and promote them, and I'd always turned them down. And for some strange reason, I said, yeah, go on then, why not? And so there was a couple of conversations on Skype, and the night before I left Gatwick to fly across to Delhi for the first time, I wasn't going to go, because in my mind, as strange as it might sound, I was going to have my throat slit by lunchtime after landing. Because of all the tourism going on. And I'm not going, I'll be dead. And just something pulled me. I don't know what it was, to be fair, I don't. Got on the plane, got off at Delhi, got picked up, went to a hotel, thinking I was also going to be just in a tent, with a toilet being a hole in the ground and two places for your feet. And then I was taken to this hotel, and I thought it was a joke because it was absolutely incredible. I then started to realize India time and my time are totally different.
What time was it? What was the first time you went there?
Well, by time, I mean, they said, oh, we'll come and get you shortly. Well, shortly to me means within half an hour.
No, I meant which year was it, your first trip there?
It was December 2015.
I'm sorry?
December 2015.
Okay, so 7 years ago, yeah.
And
Right.
so, yeah, discovered that my time is sort of, something's going to happen now. When they mean shortly, it is sometime that day.
Yeah.
And so I ended up in this building going, where am I going? Knocked on the door and thought, well, won't be long now till I'm dead. And 12 days later, I'd fallen in love with the country that I didn't want to leave.
I can imagine. So you had one expectation. For some reason, you thought you were going to be kidnapped or something. And then
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
you had an experience of a lifetime. I guess it's a little bit the effect of the prejudges, prejudgment when you don't know the country. It's considered a third world country, but it's huge. It's a continent, and you have so much differences there. So many things, and some stuff that you won't believe if you don't see it with 100%. Your own eyes. Yeah,
100%. It was a complete attack on my senses.
So now you've been there once, right? And now you're going again, and you're going to be in Rajasthan.
Yeah, well, I went twice the following year.
Twice, right.
In March 2016. And that time I was going up into the northeast area, into Assam and Bhutan.
Into Assam, yeah.
But I got injured on the second day.
Oh, shit.
Injured my back. I don't know what happened. It might have been the bike had gone into a pothole or something, but I jarred my back and decided I just couldn't continue and had to come away. The next time was November 16, when demonetization happened. And so I was in Jaipur, ready to go on a huge adventure, and saw on the TV in the Ibis Hotel in Jaipur, tomorrow morning, the currency is going to come to an end. I went, well, they obviously have April Fools in India as well, just in November. And got up the next morning and the world came to a whole end. India sort of imploded. And so I couldn't get any money. People just couldn't supply anything. The fuel stations were chock-a-block, people panicking. And so I left then as well. So, yeah.
You got stuck. So what bikes did you use the first time?
First time was a Ducati Scrambler.
And how did you find it on those roads?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah?
Absolutely loved it. I mean, it's a small bike, and I'm quite a large chap. I was back then. I've lost a bit of weight now, but how tall-wise I am. And they said, oh, you'll not fit on that. I didn't have any trouble at all. Loved it. Second time, I had what did I have the second time? Oh, Triumph Tiger 800.
All right.
And the third time I went, I had a Tiger 800 as well.
Cool. And this time I understood that you're going to have a KTM.
Yeah.
Which KTM?
They've popped up and said, we'd like to sponsor you a bike.
That's cool.
So it's going to be a KTM 390 Adventure.
Adventure. Okay. Yeah, that's quite a cool bike. Yeah. And what are your plans? What?
It was going to be a bit small, but I've been to my local KTM dealer and it should be fine.
What are your plans? What kind of itinerary are you going to follow?
Well, going back around Rajasthan, because the time I was there is so much more to see.
Of course.
There are towns and cities I haven't gone to. There were filming and photography opportunities that I missed. I feel I want to do it more justice. So
how long are you going to stay there?
Sorry?
How long are you going to stay there?
This time I'm going across for 2 months.
2 months?
Yeah.
That's going to be a nice trip. That's going to be nice. Are you organizing everything by yourself, or do you have any local help? Or
I've got friends over there. So I've got friends in Jaipur and another friend in Gurgaon. And so they are going to help me.
Okay, cool.
Whether they come with me or not, I'm not too sure at the moment, but most certainly in my head, I've got planned that I'm going to be going on my own to the various places. I'll feel fine. Everything's okay.
Right. So what do you say was, what are the best highlights of your first 3 trips in India? Like what really impressed you? What did you
The people.
find amazing?
The people.
People. That's a nice one.
They just so nice.
Hospitality.
So friendly, so helpful. And that made the trip, or the trips, should I say, so worthwhile, because I was learning about the culture from them as well. They were wanting to share their culture with me. I went to one place that was called Nimaj, and we went into the desert. There was this village where there was just, I think it was 700 people, and they told me they only had one fresh water tap for all those people. And I thought, what?
Wow.
But when we went to see a goat herder, and I've got a photograph of him, put his arm around me, and he offered me opium. Did I want to try opium? And I went, oh, that's really friendly. So it was mainly the people who
impressed you,
just welcomed you. They just, what can we do to help you? It was a case of, you're in my country, we want to help you experience everything that you can.
Make you feel welcome. Yeah.
100%, absolutely, without a doubt.
What about food? I remember you told me about your experience, the first experience with spicy food, and this is one of the main troubles when Westerners go to India or anyhow that part of the world where most of the food is hot and spicy, and it can be a shock. Well, how do you feel about it?
When I got there, obviously I didn't know any different, and so I just accepted the spicy food. Within the first couple of hours, we went into a little restaurant where it was all these samples, and I found out on the table they have this little flag, and they'll keep bringing you the starters until you put the flag up. Well, I didn't know, so they just kept bringing it and bringing it and bringing it, and then you put the flag up, then you go for the main meal, then you go for pudding, and
you exploded. It's like an all you can eat.
How are you getting on with the food? I said, I'm fine, I'm great, no problem at all. For people who don't know or perhaps haven't heard of anything like this, I also have a bag on my belly. I had an operation in 2000. And
sorry to hear that.
I have a large stomach taken away. And so that had an impact on the first night of with the motorbikes. But yeah, we had, it wasn't just me that suffered. They reckon it was masala peanuts.
Okay.
Perhaps the mutton hadn't been cooked properly, but that night I did suffer.
Yeah. And
so had to call a doctor out, get the anti-death tablets, but then I had to recover for 3 days, and I thought I was okay.
Oh, that bad.
It really did drain me. And so I had a couple of days in the support vehicle where I learned more than I think I would have done on the bike.
Oh, I see.
But the food-wise, now that I'm aware, you can say, especially in the hotels, no spice and they're fine. But out when you're going into the roadside cafes, or the towns, they just give you what it is. One instance in Jaipur, I was having some dal, and in the middle of the dal there was this little dumpling, and they just started smiling at me, and I thought, well, dal's okay. And I took a bite of this dumpling, and I still haven't forgotten how my mouth just exploded. I think it was just diced chili with extra chili.
Yeah, wow. Well, yeah, it's that's a little bit of the problem, right? When you visit, it's the same in Sri Lanka. If you go to the hotels where they used to have Westerners, they usually have a selection of food, including non-spicy food, Western food, etc. But then if you go to experience the real local food at roadside local shops, then they have the food that the citizens of the country eat, and usually is spicy.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant. It is just, again, off the scale. Okay, it might be spicy, but then you can eat to how you want to eat that. You can get the curd to be able to cool it down a bit.
Yeah.
And so once you experience that and you understand it, then you can work with that. And that's part of what you experience when you go. You've got to experience it. You can't get frightened.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Whenever you visit a different country, you want to experience the local,
Yeah.
the local culture, the tradition, their food, their way to do things, etc. And then you might not find everything suitable with your taste, but at least you tried. That's how it works, right? And
this time when I go over, I'm going vegetarian. I'm advised to go vegetarian because the meat can be a little bit suspect at times without knowing, especially in the roadside cafe.
Yeah, you never know that. Well, I see. I'm not sure, but I guess Rajasthan is mainly Hindus and Muslims, right? So Hindus usually are all vegetarians, while Muslims eat more meat usually. And then, so yeah. And although I have to say, I am a fan of some of the Muslim, Indian, and Pakistani food, like the biryani and stuff like that. Which are quite good, actually. But going back to your first 3 trips, you did all of them with a group, right? So the first one that you were contacted by this company, and then the other 2, were you still with groups or were you alone?
Yeah. The second time I was invited back by the same company.
All right.
And so it was a case of, we want you to go up to there and do what you did for Rajasthan. They weren't expecting me to film or write a book or do the photography or anything like that. And so they got a bit of a surprise, which they thought was quite good. So they said, we'd like you to come back. And so I flew from Delhi into Dibrugarh, which is up in the northeast area.
Yeah.
And then went and I got off the plane and went into the car park, and I got wrong a little bit before. The second time I went, I didn't get a Triumph Tiger. That was the third time.
Oh, all right.
And I ended up with Royal Enfield Classic Thunderbird.
Nice one.
You know, are we getting a second one? Because that one's only big enough for one of my feet. It was that small. And we just have no idea where we went, actually. But we just shot off, and we had to get to where we were going for the first night, because to drive or to ride in the dark in that region would have been rather dangerous, so I was told.
Yeah, remote areas, no lights, you don't see anything. The roads are not in best conditions and stuff.
And the area had tigers and rhinoceroses and snakes and all that. And in the dark, they'll start to do the hunt, and we didn't want to be the prey. And I'm going, oh my God.
So, but anyway, you were always with a group when you went there. So you always had a support vehicle or something like that.
Yeah. There was 2 people with me when I went into the Assam area.
Right. This time, instead, you're going alone. So you will still meet your friends, etc. But you don't know yet if they're going to be with you. Did you ever had any troubles with the bikes while on the road, like punctures or even worse stuff?
The first time with the group, we had a puncture. And that was unbelievable. We didn't have any repair kits, which I found strange, but the village repaired it. We were just outside of this village, and I think we were going down towards Udipur, I believe. Anyhow, no, Jodhpur. We're going to Jodhpur. And let me just cancel that.
No worries.
And he got a puncture. We pushed it back into the village, and I just watched them repair it. And I just, the rubber strips that they push into the hut, they had all of those, and I'm going, wow.
They had everything, yeah.
And the first night, a guy called Shumi, who's a well-known motorcycle journalist across in India, he smashed one of the Ducati wheels.
He smashed the Ducati wheels?
Yeah. We were behind time. We'd been to Sambar Lake, and we were heading towards Bikaner. And it got dark, and his rear wheel went into a pothole and smashed the wheel.
Oh, wow.
And again, there's no vehicle rescue services over there. So what do? We flagged down a truck, offered to pay him some rupees. We put it in the back of the truck, and he turned round and took us back to Bikaner.
Back to the village.
Incredible.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the issues when you're riding in these remote countries, and if you don't have a support vehicle with a mechanic and all the tools and spares, etc., and you get this kind of situation, you're a little bit stuck. I mean, it's
absolutely,
it's still part of the experience, but again, you would want to avoid them as much as possible, right?
Well, that's one of the things, you see, that gives me comfort that, okay, I don't speak any of the language and I've thought about learning it, but I've found it quite hard. But I'm sure through the international sign language of hands and where I need to go, you can flag somebody down, and I feel sure that they would help if they could. Plus,
in India, perhaps not everyone in small villages, but there is quite a good English knowledge, right? Especially in big towns and cities and stuff. It's even in India, there are, I think, over 1,000 languages. That's something that a lot of people don't know, but literally India has thousands of languages, including dialects, etc. So even among themselves, they use English to communicate because they don't speak each other's language. It's something that a lot of times people forget because they don't realize how big is the country. It's literally big. I don't know, a big chunk of Europe. So it's like having so many countries in one.
But what I also found amazing, that's the word I'll use, is they use the English language better than the English people in this country.
Oh, really?
They're better at grammar. They're better at conversation. It's because I think they've had to learn it. And when they're writing to me, I'm going, oh my God, why shouldn't I think that? Because that's how I was thinking before I went there. And now I have no problem in speaking to them. I don't have to speak in this sort of pidgin English of thinking, oh, you are a foreigner. Can I speak to you like that? It's natural. And that's something which is very comforting as well.
I guess, again, it's because when you arrive there the first time, you don't know what to expect. And then once you learn, then you know what are the advantages that you can take, like knowing that they speak English in a certain way. Then
absolutely,
it helps the mission, right? The adventure. And what would you say if someone wanted to go to Rajasthan? What would you say are the best places to go, the best things to do? What someone should not miss?
Well, without a doubt, the food. Don't be frightened of the food. When you go to a fort or a palace, or a temple, find a guide.
All right, that's a good recommendation.
Pay the money. That's how they make their living. And they will do more for you than you can think is possible, because you will get the full history, the full story. And in some instances, you'll also find they'll take you to places where the general public won't go. And that became very apparent in the palace, the city palace in Udaipur. We weren't going to pay a guide. And literally we came out of there and had learned nothing. When we got to Jodhpur and we went to McGrath Fort, a guide came with us, and I learned so much.
Because there is a lot of history, especially in Rajasthan. It is the land of kings, so a lot of forts, a lot of old palaces, in the middle of the desert, some in the middle of lakes, others, which is the diversity as well. The architecture is incredible.
Oh, it's off the scale. Better than anything in this country, because of the history of it and the age of it. And you think to yourself, you know, how did they build those? Literally, how did all those years, thousands of years ago, and that's also an attack on your senses, that you just realize that whilst it may have been broadcast over the years that third world countries, in parts of India, I guess you could call it that, but generally it just isn't. It's way above anything you could possibly imagine.
I found that, it's like in Sri Lanka. It's, beside the fact that you have the two extreme, like you have very poor people, but you also have very, very rich people
just wealth that,
they could afford anything. It's really
that's so nice. There's a company over there called Steelbird, and I'm in touch with the guy who owns it, and he's wealthy beyond wealthy.
I can imagine.
As if I'm we're just normal people, and that's brilliant.
I don't know, but I remember reading somewhere that among the top 10 billionaires in the world, 3 of them were Indians or something like that. And that's also, we also tend to forget it's over 1 billion population there.
Yeah,
So
1.2 or 3 now. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a few.
Yes, it's huge. It's really something that you can't even think about. Like I grew up in Italy. The population is 60 million, and then when you think that there is a country with a population that is over billions, you are like, whoa.
Yeah.
It blows your mind. Yeah. And have you been to the desert in Rajasthan?
Yeah, Thar Desert. Yeah.
How is riding in the desert?
Challenging, because you've got the bull dust, and also you might be on tarmac road, but then it'll just end for no reason.
Just like that. Covered by sand and gravel.
Looking to take the handle grips off you and throw you to the ground. So you've got to be careful, most certainly careful. You can't just ride and think it's just plain sand, because that will catch you out, as it caught out one of the people in the first time. He had a bad accident because of that. But then, as long as you're aware of that, again, and you have to learn that very quickly, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. We stayed in a desert camp called Manvar. It was the first time in my life I'd seen the Milky Way as clear as that.
Like tented camps? Like, yeah.
And they made a joke of me to say, right, that's your tent. Now go behind your tent and find your bush. I went, pardon? And that's where you do, your ones and twos. Really? And of course, they caught me out, because I went in, and I promise you, I went into my tent, and there was a shower and a toilet and a sink and everything. And I thought, they've just set me up. That they're not real. They just
you wouldn't expect that, but
yeah.
Even with extreme bike tours, when we go to the Himalayas, we use tented camps also, because in some places you don't have anything else, but they're well prepared. They have the toilets, they have the showers, they're comfortable beds. Like when you say tented camps, people might tend to think that it's like camping stuff. No. But it's more than wild camping. It's just because you don't have walls, but everything else inside. It's a room. It's a complete room with all the comforts that you might need, and it's very useful if you've been on the road the whole day. If you've been riding 4, 6, 8 hours, finding a comfortable bed at the end of the day and a nice shower, it's absolutely miraculous. It's like,
and the food. Oh my God! The food was just wow, just fabulous. And
did you find many cultural differences within Rajasthan itself? Like when you move from, for example, from Jaipur to Udaipur or Jaisalmer, did you notice like big cultural shocks? No, it's pretty similar.
It is, yeah.
Cool.
There was no changes at all. There was only one instance when I felt really uncomfortable, and that was in a roadside cafe. I would think, or at least I thought at the time, I don't think they'd ever seen white skin, because when I walked through the door, as you find over there, and they don't mean it out of malice, but they look at you.
Yeah, that's also typical in Sri Lanka, yeah.
And if you walk somewhere, they just follow you, because I don't know what it is, but they're just looking at you out of
curiosity.
Yeah. And it can make you feel uncomfortable, because to us, that's staring at us, and we're not used to that. Whereas to the people that were doing it, well, that would just be natural. And I said, if it hadn't been for you guys around me, I wouldn't have stayed in the cafe. And they actually turned around and said, that would have been a good decision to sort of turn around and to walk out, because if we hadn't have been here, it might have got a little bit strange. But that was the only time.
Yeah, it's actually more common than you might think. It happens in Sri Lanka as well, especially in remote areas where they're not used to see tourists.
Yeah.
So and let alone tourists on a motorcycle.
Absolutely.
Because the few times they see tourists, they might see them like with the local guide in a car. And then when they see a white guy on a motorcycle coming there, they're like, oh, well, what's going on? This is a new. And sometimes they never seen even that kind of motorcycle, you know, like even a Royal Enfield, despite being so popular in India, but you go in a remote village and they might be like, oh, what's that bike? I never seen that. It's like,
I like for the day.
yeah. No, that's going. It happens also in Sri Lanka. Sometimes, yes, it can become annoying because you don't understand. It looks like they're staring at you like they're planning something, or but in truth, it's just a curiosity. It's just like, oh, who's this guy? He's visiting our country. What is he doing? And you never know. When you don't expect it, then there's someone that jumps out of nowhere and even gives you some tips, some recommendations, say like, oh, you're here first and there is a nice lake over there. There is a waterfall over there.
Yeah.
And stuff like that you would never expect.
Yeah.
No, that happens.
It was uncomfortable a couple of times. We stopped in villages to ask for directions, and it appeared as if the whole village just went boom around the bikes, and it made me feel uncomfortable. The first couple of times it happened, but after that I thought, they're just coming to have a look.
Have you tried to greet them?
Well, no, because I was unsure at the time, because the guys around me were talking to them and I just kept my visor down because I had a dark visor on. And when I lifted my visor up and they saw the white skin, oh my God, that was even worse.
So I had this conversation with a guy once and he told me, like, when you're in this situation, you greet them, you just say hi. And then there are two outcomes. They either greet you back and smile, or they get scared and run away.
Yeah, but even with all of this, I think I feel comfortable enough to tackle this on my own, I think.
Sounds good. So what are your plans after Rajasthan? Do you already have some plans for the future, or?
Yeah. I'd like to go into the central area, Madhya Pradesh. For no other reason that I've been told. Again, there's a lot of history and heritage there, which is what I love. And then I'd also like to be going up towards the lower Himalayas. But I think maybe at that time of year, January and February, it might be challenging because
the weather is not the best at that time of the year.
It could be snowbound. So that's
and some roads are also closed at that time.
Yeah. So that's the sort of plan. But whether I actually get the third part, that'll very much be dictated by the weather. If not, I'll also just enjoy relaxing over there and take in all the culture. Sounds great.
So, Kevin, it was nice chatting with you. It's always nice to meet people like you that travels the world, that, you know, can share their experiences, because we live in one tiny world in this universe, and we should take all the chances possible to visit everywhere. Absolutely. And travel a lot. And on a bike is the best way, right?
Well, I think so. I mean, it is just a mode of transport.
Yeah.
There's no way that I would try and drive a car over in India. On a bike, it's bad enough with the traffic. But oh my God, yeah.
Especially in India, yes. Especially in India.
Yeah. But no, motorbike for me is the ultimate way to travel around. The modern day horse.
Right. So for anyone that is watching us when I publish the video, I'm going to put all the links of Kevin's websites and YouTube channel in the description. Make sure you visit his videos. And we are looking forward to see all your updates from your trip. Keep in touch. And like I said, hope to have a trip with you sometime when maybe perhaps in the future we'll meet somewhere in the same country and have a few days riding together. That would be nice.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah.